'cause he brought me through, and I hope he does the same for you. Your love gave me reason to wake up. Your love gave me reason to smile. Your love gives me so much purpose. Your love is your love. Your love gave me reason to wake up. Your love gave me reason to smile. That's why your love gives me so much purpose. Your love is so precious to me. Think about all the things Yahuah's done for you. Think about all the things Yahuah's brought you through. Oh, he's brought you. Think about all the things Yahuah's done for you. He's done for you. Think about all the things Yahuah's brought you through. Oh, I need to make you smile, 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 smile. Smile, 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 smile. It will make you smile. Yahuah makes you smile, 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 makes you smile. Yahuah makes you smile, 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 smile. Your love give me reason to wake up. Your love give me reason to smile. Your love gives me so much purpose. Your love is so precious. Your love give me reason to wake up. Your love give me reason to smile. Your love gives me so much purpose. Your love is so precious to me.
And I'm going to go ahead and mute my mic, Akut Yaria. And so please feel free to go ahead, Akut.
Tira Aki, hello Yahuah. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Praise Yahuah. I just wanted to praise his name and just encourage everyone to keep on keeping on. And sometimes your praise, if it can be very, weak, because sometimes in the midst of a trial, we don't feel like giving praise. And when your life is continuing, ongoing, because of where we are and who we are and what Yahuah is working out, it's not going to be easy, like Akeem Haykal said, but we give him esteem anyway. Hello, Yahuah. So this is a little song. It says, "Because you are the Elohim." And so please bear with me because I don't have music. And I have to make sure if I don't start on the right key, I'm on, but it's all right. All right, hello, Yahuah. I sing praises to your name, 'cause your mercy remains the same. Halal, halal, Yahuah. My heart gives you all esteem, just because you're the Elohim. Halal, halal, Yahuah. I'll be singing your praise, singing your praise, your mercy, and you reign supreme. Singing your praise, I'll be singing your praise, Yahuah. Your name, your name, your name, Yahuah's name, your name, your name, Yahuah's name. We praise your name, Yahuah Rapha. You're here with me, Yahuah Shalom. You give me peace, Yahuah seek anew a brightness to me, Yahuah Yara. You provide your seed, so I'll be singing your praise, your praise. Yahuah, you reign supreme. I'll be singing your praise, singing your praise. Yahuah, I praise your name. Your name, your name, your name. Yahuwah's name, we praise your name. Your name, your name. Yahuwah's name, we praise your name. We praise your name. Allow Yahuwah to.
Want to say shalom to you all, Mashpakai. It is wonderful to be here once again and to see each and every one of you on this evening. We indeed give Yahuwah praise, honor, and esteem for yet another opportunity to assemble in His name. Halahu Yahuwah. It is indeed a baraka to be here. I want to begin by just greeting the family. I give a big shout out to all of the family here. I want to say shalom to my Aki Waraya. Matatyahu, it is wonderful to see you, Aki. I missed you yesterday. I don't know if you were here, but I just didn't see you. But in my mind, I certainly felt like I missed you. It is great to see you, Aki. Shalom to you and to your mashpaka. I also want to say shalom to my Akut Shar and Aki Rob. It is wonderful to see you this evening, family. Also want to say shalom to my Akut Mahalia. Wonderful to see you as always. My dearly beloved Akut, and also Akut Carmen. Great to see you, Akut, as always. I say shalom to you. Greetings in the wonderful name of Yahuwah. And also to my Akut Al Yashaba, who we missed, certainly missed yesterday, the family, just so you know, Akut. But it goes without saying that, the family was asking for you. So it's wonderful to see you. I let everyone know that you were away, so we would alleviate any concerns that you were good. And so it's wonderful to see you as always, Akut. Also want to say shalom to Akut Sharon. Wonderful to see you, Akut, as always. And also to my Akut Jeanette. Great to see you, Akut. Shalom, shalom to you, Akut. And also to Aki Willie. Shalom to you, Aki. Greetings to you. And also to Akut Mary, I say shalom. Wonderful to see you on this evening, Akut, as always. Also to the family listening on YouTube and to the family listening from Facebook Live, I want to say shalom to you, Mashpaka. Great to have each and every one of you on this evening. Okay, so we're gonna also want to say shalom to Akut Amuna. I see Akut Amuna just joined. I don't know if she have audio yet, but I want to greet my Akut Amuna. It is wonderful to see you as always, my Akut. Shalom to you. Okay, so as always, family, it is Foundational Facts Fellowship on this first day evening. And as always, as I like to say, and in every introduction you see it, what we seek is the truth, the whole truth, and absolutely nothing but the truth. That's what we seek. We seek the truth, the whole truth, and absolutely nothing but the truth, nothing but the contextual truth. And so that's why we're here this evening, seeking truth. We're truth seekers, right? Also want to say shalom to Aki Edward. Wonderful to see you, Aki. Shalom to you, my Aki. Great to see you as always. Yes, indeed. We are truth seekers, and so we continue to dig for truth, right? Our subject for this evening, it came to me today by way of Aki Trevin. I'm not sure if Aki Trevin is here yet. But Aki Trevin gave me a call earlier today, and he was asking if I would discuss the subject of the real Mount Sinai, and he he said he was watching a video, and we thought that it was information that perhaps not everybody is aware of, and was some great information to share, and I agree. A few years back, while we were still on Pal Talk, one evening I did present a bit of information on the subject, but we never really got into any great details on the subject. But as always, I like to tell people, I like to remind people, not tell people. And in some cases, yeah, notify people. You see, but I like to remind people that we have inherited many great lies. We have, in fact, inherited many great lies. As a matter of fact, there's a video on YouTube by that title. We have inherited many great lies. We have inherited lies. And the scriptures tells us that. Yahuah tell us that we would inherit many great lies. And so we have been lied to on every subject matter there is. We have simply been lied to on every subject matter. We have been lied to concerning our heritage, our history, our identity. We have been lied to when it comes to the land and the layout of the land. We have been lied to on many great things. We have been lied to tremendously and significantly. But you see, all of that is a part of the curse, but also a part of the promised curse is also the promised awakening. You see, a part of the promised curse is also the promised awakening. When Yahuah said that he would bring the curse upon us because of our disobedience and because of our unwillingness to obey, he also promised that he would one day awaken us from a very deep sleep, you see, family. And so right now we are in the midst of an awakening. We are in the midst of an awakening. Indeed we are. We are in the midst of an awakening right now. We're in the midst of an awakening. Now, family, while I'm at this, maybe I don't remember the details of Ezekiel chapter, I believe it's in chapter 2 and chapter 3, where Yahuah gave him the instructions about laying on his side. And he was to lay on his side for 390 days, and each day would represent 1 year, and then he was to turn and lay on the other side for another period of time. If somebody is able to look into that for me and remind me what was the other total number of days that he was to lay on his side for? This would represent the number of days of the captivity of Yashar, you see, and the bondage. And now I'm not going to stay on that because the interesting thing about the book of Yakazakal, it's twofold. The book of Yakazakal is both historical and some portion of it, a lot of it is historical because it speaks of a captivity, of a bondage that took place, and of the restoration from that captivity that also took place. Because the book of Yakazakal, Ezekiel, was speaking, it was more dedicated to the Babylonian captivity, the captivity where Nebuchadnezzar would come in and would take Yashar captive, and then the Medes and the Persians would come and release them later on. Nonetheless, though, even though it was very much pointed to that captivity, there are instances in that writing where it points to the latter deliverance, the last and final deliverance of Yashar, the last and final captivity of Yashar. And so it is important to know the difference between that. But I bring that up because in the last and final deliverance, you see, and in every deliverance out of captivity, an awakening take place. The people are awakened. But you see, family, there are two times throughout history where our people have been in a very deep sleep. They've had other captivities, but and they've been in deep sleep, but not in very, very deep sleep. Tuda, family, Tuda Rabbah. So he was to lay 390 days on one side, on the left side, and then he was to lay another 40 days on the other side, and each day was to be representative of 1 year, and so he would lay for 430 days in total, representing the number of years of the captivity of the people of Yashar. That is right there in the in the ballpark of the number of years also that Yashar spent in the Babylonian captivity, because not in the Babylonian captivity, but in the captivity of Matzrayim, because in the captivity of Matzrayim they also spent 430 years. They also spent 430 years in the captivity of Matzrayim. So the Babylonian captivity now, the Babylonian captivity is tied in the captivity that we are in. It's not by coincidence, family, that our people continue to talk about being in Babylon. Our people have been talking about being in Babylon for a very long time, you see. If you listen to a lot of reggae music, old reggae music, you listen to a lot of singers, whether it be Bob Marley or Peter Tosh or Dennis Brown or whoever it might be, and newer artists and older artists, they sing about being in Babylon. It's not by coincidence. And people in America, in this captivity, spoke about being in Babylon, and people today right now speak about being in Babylon. Right now, in the past, I've said that the captivity that we're currently in is a combination of Yashar-al's two greatest captivity. And the two greatest captivity that Yashar-al have ever seen is the captivity of Matzrayim and the captivity of Babylon. So we have a combination now of both captivities, the captivities that we're in. It's the captivity of Matzrayim and the captivity of Babylon. And so, family, what's interesting is in the book of Yahuah is speaking about the captivity, the Babylonian captivity. Now, we know that the people did not spend 430 years in the Babylonian captivity. Their captivity lasted for 70 years. And so this is prophetic of a later captivity. You see, a later and the final captivity, which is the captivity that we are currently in, and from which we will be delivered, from which we will be awakened. And so we're in that hour of awakening, family. We're in that hour of awakening where Yahuah is awakening His people, where Yahuah is awakening His people, and so things are coming to light, right? Things are coming to light. Now, the information concerning Mount Sinai, it's been out there for quite some time. As a matter of fact, I believe that when this was discovered, it was in the 1980s. If I remember correctly, when I was doing research on this, it was back around 1983 or sometime when these two men made the discovery, when they realized that the real Mount Sinai was not on what's called today the Sinai Peninsula, but was actually in Saudi Arabia, just like the scripture says it is. You see. Okay. Yes. Well, you know why that is a coup. You know why they give all these places these names here in America? Because there is a belief that stems from what they call Anglo-Israelism that teaches that this is the new Jerusalem, that America is the new promised land, that America is the promised land, and that this is the new Jerusalem. And so that's why when you go all over this country, you find places with names that have been taken from the scriptures, corrupted nonetheless, I must say. They're corrupted names. They're not properly represented, but nonetheless, they are names taken from the scriptures that they corrupted. You see. So that's why they do that, because it is believed that this is the new Jerusalem, this is the new Jerusalem, this is the promised land, you see. And even though it's not because of the favor of Yahuah why this country have become great, it's not because of the favor of Yahuah why this country became great, not because of the favor of Yahuah why this country became great. We read that yesterday in the book of Mashali, in the book of Proverbs, talking about the wicked becoming strong. The wicked does not become strong because of the favor of Yahuah. The wicked become strong because of their lack of sympathy, their lack of empathy, their lack of humanity. The wicked becomes great because of their wickedness, not because of favor. And the problem is that people confuse prosperity with set-apartness. Simply because somebody prospers does not mean that they're set apart. You see, and so, but that's what leads people astray. That's why people get hung up and caught up and led astray. You see, with every false word that goes forth. So nonetheless, family, Yahuah is awakening His people. So this information about Mount Sinai actually came into view, I believe, somewhere around 1983. Now, you see what's happening. Because we are a people who have been oppressed and are still oppressed. Because we are a people who our heritage and our history have been ripped, stolen from us, and even though it belongs to us, it might be in a museum right around the corner from your house, but because of our poverty, we can't even afford to pay to buy a ticket to go and see what's in the museum. And so essentially, our history have been hidden right under our noses, you see, because and we don't realize it again because we are not privy. We're not privy to the information. But nonetheless, what's happening is because Yahuah knows what was done to us, what He has been doing is He has been revealing it without us having to go into a museum, buying tickets that we can't afford, or flying here and flying there. Yahuah is forcing it out. You see, and so information is being revealed like never before. So we keep in mind that we have inherited many great lies, but we are in a time where the awakening is taking place, where Yahuah is truly making the truth known. So this evening, family, Trevin had asked if I would he had a video in particular. He said that he was watching a video and he wanted to know if I would share it in the room. I don't think Aki Trevin is here, but I do have videos on the real Mount Sinai. So Aki Trevin is not here yet. And I told him that I would. But so since he's not here, I don't have the link to the particular video that he wanted me to share. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go over some things about Mount Sinai, and I'm going to share with you a video on the real Mount Sinai. Okay. Now, time and time again, we find in the scriptures that Mount Sinai is in Arabia. And that would be what's today called Saudi Arabia. Okay. We see that Mount Sinai is in Arabia. Yet we are told by the Christians, the same ones who kicked us out of the land, took us out of the land, and then locked us out of the land for over 200 years. You see, family, for over 200 years after the Romans took the land, for over 200 years, nobody of the seed of Yashar was allowed to enter back into the land. For 200 years, no one of the seed of Yashar, when the Romans finally put on that final lockdown, and they allowed no one of Yashar to enter into the land for over 200 years. And what they did in those 200 years was they did a series of changing and building and conniving and stealing, as they do. And everything became confused and changed, you see. Now the Romans, after they had their way in the land for all of that time, forget the name of the dynasty. It's not coming to me right now. I don't know why I always forget that dynasty, and I shouldn't. But basically, the Muslim dynasty. I'm not going to say Arab. Muslim dynasty. What they did was they came in and they conquered Rome, and they took over the land, and that's after Rome had defeated them a few times, and finally they took over the land. And then later on in more recent history, through a series of stealing and conniving. Yes, do I hear someone?
Yeah, you talking about the Ottoman Empire.
Yes, to the Aki, to the Rabbah. Yes, so the Ottoman Emperor, they defeated the Christian dynasty, Constantine, and the Roman dynasty, and the Ottomans took over. And later on, in more recent history, somewhere around the 1800s or so, the Ottoman surrendered the land to the British, and that's where now the Europeans, the Yids, that's who they are. The people that's called Jews, they are Yids. Okay, that's where, because you see, there is this belief, because they're all Europeans. By the way, we should note that the Yids, the people in Israel, what they called Israel, what they renamed Israel, that land that they renamed Israel, that's not the name of the land, as we all know, right? Some people still don't know that, but Israel is not the name of the land, and the name of the people are not Israelites, and so on and so forth. But that's where these Yids, who call themselves Israelites, that's where now they took the land. Britain gave them the land. Britain and America gave them the land. And by the way, it's the same people. These are the same people who are in South Africa. They are Europeans, okay? So in the same way that they stole the land of Yashar, they also stole South Africa. And they implemented what they call that again, that rule of tyranny there in South Africa. The same thing that's present here in America, apartheid to the Toda, my head's not functioning too quickly here this evening, but Toda Rabba, I'm thankful that I have family that are very knowledgeable of the facts, so people will know that I'm not making this up. So even if I forget it, somebody here knows what I'm talking about. Praise Yahuah. And so these Yids, South African Yids, well, they're actually not South Africans, but you know, they call themselves South Africans. Okay. They say that they were there before the South African people, which is just a blatant lie. But these are the same people in Israel, same people in Europe, you see. So they go about fabricating these lies and making these changes and whitewashing everything. And so that leads us to all of the just all of the lies that we see. And it's interesting that when our eyes become opened, family, when our eyes become opened, if we look at their books, if we look at their books, you know, I'm sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place here. Everything is just flowing, is just rushing to me. I want to get everything out. It's amazing. I feel overwhelmed just trying to get everything out. So let me just say this real quickly. I was watching that movie, The Birth of a Nation, last week. And I went to see it. And what's interesting is that when Nat Turner was a little kid, a little boy, a white family took him in. The slave master, they took him and made him a house Negro. Okay? They made him a house Negro. The slave master's wife took a liking to him, and they took him in and made him a house Negro. And because she discovered that he was able to read. He had taught himself to read as a little child, and so she normally that could cost him his life. And his mother thought that he was going to be killed when she found out that he could read. And so the mother was telling her, I'll take care of it, you know. When she came to the mother saying that she is going to take him, she wanted him to come live with them. Now, when he went to the house, when she took him into the house for the first time, she took him into their library. And he's looking at all the books in the library, and he's just in awe of seeing all the books, because he had a desire for knowledge. And so he went to reach for one of the books, and so she told him, no, that one's not for you. That one is for whites. You see, she said, you wouldn't understand the things in that book, but here is one for you. And what she gave him was, she gave him a Bible. Now, the fact of the matter is that and this, please understand me as you listen to this. If you've never heard me talk about this before, I want you to hear me out before you jump to any conclusion. So she said, no, you don't need to mess with those books. Those are for whites. You wouldn't understand the things that are in those books. It would just confuse you. She said, but here is a book for you. And she gave him a Bible. Now, if the Bible was pure, if the Bible remained in the state that it should have been, she would never have so freely given him a Bible. But because the book had been tampered with, messed with, she found no problem with giving it to him freely, being confident that it will only continue to do what they desire to be done in the slave. You see? And so she gave him a Bible. Okay? Now, there's a reason why I brought that up. So we know that the Bible is not the scriptures, right? The Bible is not the scriptures. The Bible is a corrupted translation of the scriptures, but the Bible is not the scriptures. The Bible is a corrupted translation of the scriptures in which the names of the Creator and his people have been removed and replaced with European sounding names. And the names of places have been changed. And the location of places have been changed. You see, in the Bible. So, what we do, a great question, Akud Sharon. So, when we read translation, what we seek to do is we seek to compare it, because today we have the ability to go in, and we have seen many things as we search the scriptures, as we study the scriptures. We have found many things as we study the scriptures by comparing translation with the Abari text. By comparing translation with the Abari text, we have found many things as we study. We have found many contradictions. We have found things in the translation that's not found in the Abari writings. Okay? For example, just some really quick examples. I'll give you some really quick examples. Okay? For example, the word church is found in the Bible. The word church is found in the Bible over 100 times, if I recall correctly. The word church is found in the Bible over 100 times. And yet the word church is not found in the scriptures or in any of the writings of the people of scripture. Not one time. Right? It's not found, not even once. Right? You have so there are many different examples. Another thing is, you might be seeing this on your screen, that the name Bible was not given by Yahuah. The people of the scriptures never called it the Bible. The name Bible was given to the book by Europeans in honor of a pagan sun deity. Okay? Because you see, Christianity is all about sun worship. So the Bible is a Christian book. Okay? And what they do is they use the Bible to brainwash us and to whitewash the truth. Okay? And so that's so what they have done to deny us of the truth, and they freely give it to us. They freely give it to us. They've been giving it to us ever since the plantation. As a matter of fact, not even ever since the plantation. They've been giving it to us before we even got on the boat. They've been giving it to us even before they put us on the boat, as they stole us out of the continent of Africa. Okay? And when we got here, and in every place that we have been, I remember growing up, they would come to the school and give out these little New Testament, these little Bibles that only had the New Testament in it, Gideon Bibles, right? Little ones, and they would give them out to us freely. Okay? And because because what was that for? To keep us entrapped. Okay? And to make you think, because there are still people to this day. There are still people to this day who thinks. There are still people to this day who, when you tell them that the Bible is not the scriptures, they get highly offended. Okay? There are people to this very day who, when you tell them that the Bible is not the scriptures, they get highly offended, you see. Because they don't realize that the Bible is just it is an instrument developed by the Europeans to strengthen our enslavement. Okay? Am I saying that you don't read and you can't read from the book? We have to, because we don't know the language to that extent. And what Yahuah has done is, this has become a tool for us to find the truth. It has become a tool for us to find the truth. So as we use their translation, we compare it with the text, you see. And what we can find, and what we do find, is where things contradict and where things have been put in where they should not be, you see. And so that helps tremendously in our awakening. Now, I brought up that to say that even in the Bible, the book of the European Book of Lies. Okay, I'm not talking about the scriptures. I'm talking about the crooked translation. Let me borrow some terms from the campaign, from the political campaign. I'm talking about the crooked European translation. Even in the crooked translation, you can find clues that helps to open our eyes to the truth. Okay? So now this evening we're going to be talking about the real Mount Sinai. And many Bibles have a map. Many Bibles have maps in them, right? And if we look at those maps, when it comes to the location of the real Mount Sinai, if we look at those maps, we realize that what they tell us is the real Mount Sinai. If we just follow those maps, we realize that it's not the real Mount Sinai, that even their map is corrupt. The maps are corrupt when you look at these maps. You see? The maps, when you look at some of these maps, they have you going in circles. Right? And even though in the writing it says that the sea was parted, their maps show that the people didn't even have to cross water. They just walked across the land to get from Mitzrayim into Canaan. When we look at their maps and we look at the direction that they tell you that our ancestors traveled in, which they would like to say it was their ancestors, when we look at their maps, we realize that it was quite a distance, right? Much longer than 11 days. Yet the scriptures tells us that it was only an 11-day journey. So when you look at their maps, you realize that according to their maps, that journey could not have ever been an 11-day journey. It was impossible for that distance to be covered in 11 days. Okay? It was impossible for that distance to be covered in 11 days. Now I'm not getting to the details of it yet, but I'm gonna put some maps on the screen while I'm talking here. And Aki Trevin is here now, so in a moment I'm gonna see if Aki Trevin could share the link to the video that you suggested, Aki. If you could share that link. I have videos, but the one that we spoke about, if you could share that link, then I'll use that video. But I'm gonna put some maps, and put a Google Earth image. I'm gonna put a Google Earth image on the screen of the area in question. Okay, we're gonna get to the video, and let me just put this image up real quick. Okay. All right, so this is a Google Earth image. Okay, this is a Google Earth image, which means that we can move it. All right. Now, Mitzrayim is down here, and if you look at the Christian map, it tells you that they traveled all the way up here. This is many miles, a lot of distance. They traveled all the way up here, and they came across over here, and they came into Canaan. Okay, that's what, when you look at Bible maps, that's what it tells you. Okay. Now the scriptures though tells us that the people, number one, that the distance from Mitzrayim to the Mount of Sinai was only an 11-day journey. Okay, and so what we will see is that they didn't travel all the way up here and came across over here and came down, and they didn't go right Canaan, oh, let me say this. Canaan was not limited. Today, if you follow them, Canaan, if you let them tell it, Canaan is limited to a little area right up here, a little bit of area right up here. But the fact of the matter is, Canaan was a vast region. Canaan was a vast region, okay? And so when they came over, and this vast region, all of it was given to Yashar-al. It's just that Yashar-al never did what they were supposed to do as Yahuah commanded them, never took the land as Yahuah commanded them. But where they went into Saudi Arabia, which is where we are right down here. And all they did was crossed over right here and went into Saudi Arabia. Okay, so we're going to look at that momentarily. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to zoom in on this map here a little bit. Okay, it's a very narrow passage where they crossed over. They crossed over into and went into Mount Sinai. We're going to look more at this a little bit later on. If I click on certain areas, let's see, let's go down. You'll see the layout of the land. Okay, but we're going to let the video, we're going to watch the video. Okay, we're going to watch the video and we're going to let it speak. But let me just go to one more thing real quick. I'm going to go to one more thing here very quickly. I'm going to go to Galatians chapter 4 and verse 25. Galatians chapter 4 and verse 25. Now, as we go to Galatians chapter 4, I don't have time this evening to go into it. But a lot of people don't understand Galatians chapter 4 and verse 25 because they take it out of context. Okay? They take it out of context. They do not consider the context. Okay? Galatians. The book of Galatians is actually a letter. It's one letter. One letter. It's one long letter. Just like the book of Romans is one long letter. Just like 1 Corinthians is one long letter. 2 Corinthians, another long letter. Written at different times, but one long letter, right? So 1 Corinthians was written, a letter written at one time. Then 2 Corinthians was written later on. Okay? The book of Galatians, it's not a book, it's a letter. Okay? Galatians is not a book, it's a letter. It's a letter written to the people of Yasharal that were settling in the region of what was called Galatia. Okay? And so it's a letter. So when we read, we have to look at it as a letter. We have to treat it as a letter. The reason why I'm emphasizing this is this. Family, if somebody sent you a letter in the mail and you open the letter, would you begin reading in the middle of the letter or at the end of the letter, or read one line in the letter or a paragraph in the letter and then think that you have an understanding of what the writer is intending to tell you? Let me go to the screen so I can see. Bear with me. So if you receive a letter in the mail, this is a question to the family. If you receive a letter in the mail, would you begin reading in the middle of the letter or toward the end of the letter, or read one line from the letter or a paragraph from a multiple paragraph letter and then think that you have an understanding of what the person is actually saying? No. It's impossible, right? To understand what is being said, you have to take into account the entire context. You got to read it from the beginning. But what we have been trained to do by foolish pastors, by people that were trained to keep us enslaved, What we have been trained to do by those that have been trained to keep us enslaved is to just open the book, go to a verse, and then proclaim as if we have full understanding of what is being stated. You see, it's a setup. We have been duped and bamboozled into treating the writings in such a disastrous way. You see, and that's why there is so much misunderstanding, because people do not realize the value of context and the importance of context. You see, and so they think that you can just go in and open up and start reading one verse and then read the verse that come after it, and sometimes not even that, or even read the verse that came before and the verse after and think that you have an understanding. Listen, that is foolishness. You see? And so we have to know the context. And because people do not take the time to learn what the context is, then they misunderstand what is actually being stated. Now I'm going to read Galatians chapter 4 and verse 25. I don't have enough time to go into the context, but because I've read it and I've studied it, now I'm going to tell you what the context is, and you can go back and read it from the beginning and see if you find it to be true, if you don't already, have that understanding. Okay, so we're going to go to Galatians chapter 4 and verse 25. Galatians chapter 4 and verse 25, it says, "For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and corresponds to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in slavery with her children." Okay, now you will read some translations that says of this verse. Let me see if I find another translation. Give me 1 second. Let me go to the She James version. Let's see. Chapter 4, verse 25. "For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem which is above is free, which is the mother of us all." There is another translation, don't remember which one, that basically talk about being a slave to the law. I thought, recall, as a matter of fact, let me read from verse 21. "Tell me,"
lock the door and everything.
"Tell me you that tell me you, your mic's unmuted there, Aki. Aki Matatyahu, your mic's open, Aki. Okay, so verse 21 says, "Tell me you that desire to be under the law." Okay, I'm going to read it just like they have it now. "Tell me you that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law? For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, the one by a bondmaid and the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by promise. Which things are an allegory? For these are the 2 contracts, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answers to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all." Okay, so people read this, taking it out of context, and they say that Shaul is saying that anyone who is following Torah is in bondage. And that's not what Shaul is saying. You got to read the context to see what Shaul is talking about. So if you begin reading in chapter 1 of Galatians, and I just want to, this is not why I came here, but since I'm here, I have to deal with it because there is always confusions that surround it. If you begin in chapter 1 here in this letter, And especially when you, as you get into chapter 2 and chapter 3, you realize the context here, what Shaul is talking about and who Shaul is speaking to are people who does not recognize the prophecy from Yahu chapter 31. Okay, concerning the change in the contract. Okay, let me just have a little bit of, let's just, do a little bit of brain teaser here for a second, family. Make this a little bit exciting because I'm the only one talking. I like when, I get input from others also. So, what is the contract that's mentioned in Yahu, Jeremiah chapter 31, family, beginning at verse 30 or 31? What is that contract? We have two contracts concerning redemption, right? Two contracts. There are two contracts concerning redemption. And Yahu speaks of both contracts, right? Yes. The new contract, what they call the new covenant, right? So Yahu says, "Behold, the day comes, says Yahuah, when I will make a new contract with Yahusha, with my people. And I will put my Ruach in them. And I will write my Torah on their heart." You see, that's the new contract. So that is what Shaul is speaking about in Galatians. So in Galatians, what he was speaking to people who did not recognize the new contract. And so there were these people that were saying that the only way that you can be redeemed is by following the old contract, which means that you must be circumcised in the flesh and that you must do the sacrifices, the ceremonial sacrifices, and that is what's going to, you got to save yourself. You got to redeem yourself. That's what they were teaching, and Shaul was saying there's a new contract. Even Yahu the prophet speak about the new contract, you see. And so that's what Galatians chapter 4 is referring to. It's talking about the Torah of circumcision. That's what he is speaking about, you see. He's talking about the Torah of circumcision, the ceremonial Torah, the ceremonial law is what he's talking about, okay? Because it is by the ceremonial law that we were that Yahusha was redeemed until there came a change in the contract, which is the change that Yahuah made to the contract, which he himself came and redeemed us and said, there is no longer need for any high priest to go in for you, but I will be your high priest. And so what he did was he ripped the veil, he tore the veil down, because now no man needed to go in for you, but I have become your high priest. You see, so that's the contract, and that's what Shaul is talking about. He's talking about the old contract that says that you have to go and redeem yourself by the shedding of your blood, of the blood of your foreskin and the blood of animals. That's what Shaul is specifically speaking about. He's not saying that Torah is bondage. That's not what he's saying. People don't understand that the word Torah is a generic term. We treat Torah, as a matter of fact, religion has taught us that Torah is the first 5 books. You see, when that's not the truth. Torah is a generic term. Torah speaks of all of Yahuwah's instruction, is what I'm saying. You see, so anything that Yahuwah says is Torah. It's his instruction. It's not limited to 5 books. Everything that Yahuwah proclaims is Torah. Every and anything that Yahuwah proclaims is his instruction, you see. And so there's a misunderstanding about that. Okay, now, let's now go to a key Trevin. So now we see here in Galatians where Shaul says that Mount Sinai is in Arabia. That's what's today called Saudi Arabia. So back in about 1983 or so, these men found. And one of them said, his name is Wyatt. He said what got him looking, what got him to start searching was because he was looking in his Bible. He was looking in his Bible, and there was a question mark by the map that showed the route that the people came over. And he read the commentary, and there was basically the commentary was saying that, you know, it might not actually be, but basically this is what we're going to go with. That's what the Christians have always done. You see, when they lie to you, they put it in your face and act as if they don't know when they really do know. You see, so in their footnote, they say this might not actually be, but this is what we're going to go with. So he says, hold on. It's either right or it's wrong. And so he started searching, and that's how he came across this place in Saudi Arabia, which the evidence shows is the real Mount Sinai. Okay, family, so Aki Trevin, do you have a link to that video that we spoke of earlier, Aki?
Yeah, Key, I'm on my phone right now.
Okay.
I can't get on the computer for some reason, so I can't bring the link up.
Oh, wow.
But I know it's on. Are you able to get on YouTube as far as?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If you look on YouTube to the guy I was telling you about. True Unveiled 77. Truth Unveiled 777. And he got it. It's called Real. Wait a minute. Let me go to it real quick. I can go to it on my phone while I'm on it. Okay, it's called The Real Exodus Location Found Proof the Bible is True. That's one of his videos, and you can go on there if you can.
Okay, The Real Exodus Location Found.
Real Exodus Location Found. It's on YouTube.
Okay, I see it here. Alright. So I got him. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put it on. Might have made that too big, so bear with me here. Okay. All right, let's see what happened to the video. Maybe I have
this website by Ark Discovery International, and it's talking about this video will prove the founding of the real Mount Sinai, as well as some other biblical artifacts and biblical truths that have been hidden from you all along. Now, the question you should be wondering is, why would they hide such a thing? Because they don't want you to know who your true creator is. And today, I'm going to be proving to you that the Exodus was in fact a true story and has a real location, as well as some other biblical artifacts and things as well. So here we are, and we hear at this website by Ark Discovery International, and it's talking about what? The real Mount Sinai. And where is the real Mount Sinai? It's in Jabal al-Lawz in Saudi Arabia, not the one that they try to pin it. Because why do they put it there? They put it there for a reason. They don't want you to know the truth. They like to say that, the Mount Sinai is in the middle of the Sinai Peninsula. They put it there to fool you and to make it seem like, archaeologists can't find it. Archaeologists can't find it. There must be no real evidence. They do that because they don't want you to know who your creator is. So now it's time to expose the liars and the lies for who they really are. And here we are. And here I am, and it says, the traditional location of Mount Sinai in the Sinai Peninsula is based upon tradition that was started by Constantine or his mother, both of whom claimed to have dreams of where biblical sites were located. No, they were just lied to. They just lied to do that. And it goes on to say there is no Jewish tradition of the geographical location of Mount Sinai. It seems that its exact location was obscure already in the time of the monarchy. The Christian hermits and monks, mostly from Egypt, who settled in southern Sinai from the 2nd century CE on, made repeated efforts to identify the locality of the Exodus where actual places to which the believers could make their way as pilgrims. The identification of Mount Sinai either with Jebel Serbal near the oasis of Firon or with Jebel Musa can be traced back as far as the 4th century CE to Constantine's time, and this is according to who? The Jewish Encyclopedia, volume 14, page 1599, because they're good at telling the truth. That it was sarcastic. But here is the actual, more accurate route of what the Exodus. And as you can see, this is where the biblical Hebrews exited, and then they came here and crossed at the Gulf of Aqaba, because in some biblical maps and locations, they like to show that, oh, they crossed this way and came in here. How can that be when they didn't cross the Red Sea? Unless they're lying, of course. But it says, the location of Midian east of the Gulf of Aqaba is verified by many other scholars. The biblical references connecting Sinai with Mount Seir, Edom, and the land of Midian seem clearly to indicate this region east of the Gulf of Aqaba, as pointed out by Bake, Wallhausen, Sayce, Moore, Shade, Gall, Gunkel, Edward Meyer, Schmidt, Grassmann, Haupt, and by Alois Mussel in the Northern Haggis on the track of the Exodus, page 87. So you can see other archaeologists and scholars have pointed out that the Gulf of Aqaba is where the real Exodus is and took place, and where biblical Bible texts locate the real Mount Sinai. As you can see, Jabal al-Lawz is Midian, where the real Mount Sinai is, and the real crossing of the Exodus is here at the Gulf of Aqaba in New Waiba, Egypt. And I'm going to prove to you that that's the real location and show you just what is the truth. And it says Mount Sinai has to be in Midian, because Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, which is right here, and he sat down by a well. And this is according to Exodus chapter 2. Maps indicate Midian is east of the Gulf of Aqaba in northwest Saudi Arabia, in the area shown on the map above. Now, what you should be asking yourself is, why is it that Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern nations where these biblical sites are located, why are they blocked off by war and other means? Interesting. It says Moses fled to a foreign land, not to the Sinai Peninsula, and she, Zipporah, bore him a son, and he called his name Gershom.
Yes, go ahead, Akeem.
I have been a stranger.
There's a little video on Jews. Is that?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. You're not seeing it. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me share the screen. So sorry about that. Okay. I couldn't see either because I wasn't looking at the view screen. I'm sorry. Okay, let me continue.
Foreign land, according to Exodus chapter 2. Moses was in a different country, away from any Egyptians in Saudi Arabia. He could not have been in the Sinai Peninsula, as that area was Egyptian-controlled territory full of Egyptian mines and communication towers. Moses would have easily been captured in that area. Midian and Horeb are in the same location. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of Yahuah Elohim. And it says Jethro was the leader of the Midianites who found the area east of the Gulf of Aqaba in the northwestern regions of the Arabian Desert, according to Britannica. When researching the location of Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia that Mr. Wyatt proposed, I went to the East Tennessee State University Library and found two extremely detailed maps of Saudi Arabia. On both maps, I found the name Jethro next to the town of Al-Bad, which is near Jabal al-Lawz, the correct Mount Sinai. See maps below. You can see it right here, and a second map here as well that we will see. And if you zoom in on it, you can actually see Jethro just right there. So what does that tell you? What are they lying about? I'm telling you, this goes much deeper than you think. But as we go down, we see the caves of Jethro, and we see the caves, one of the caves of Jethro, or Moses' cave near Al-Bad, where in Jabal al-Lawz. And if we keep going and scrolling down, we see Dr. Kim standing in an entrance to the cave, and it says what? Mount Sinai in Arabia. But let's keep going. Now I'm showing you this to show you that this is the real, actual, authentic site, because this picture right here shows you the authentic picture of what the split rock of Horeb and Mount Jabal all lost, the rock that Moses struck in order to get out water for the children of Israel, as spoken of in Shamut, or Exodus chapter 17. Oh, but I know you probably think it's photoshopped. I know you probably think it's fake, but unfortunately for you, it is the truth, because I'm telling you, they've been hiding all of this from you. They don't want you to see it. And according to Josephus, it says that Mount Sinai was the highest of mountains in the city of Midian, which is just outside the town of Al-Bad. Jabal al-Luz is the highest mountain in the upper two-thirds of the country. Also, Philo said Mount Sinai was located in the Sinai, east of the Sinai Peninsula and south of Palestine. That could only mean it's in one place, which is what? In Saudi Arabia. That's where it is. And you can see the research in the hallowed grounds, and the research goes on from there in the layout of the mountains and the artifacts. But it says the upper 200 feet of Jabal al-Luz is burned black, as we have seen in previous photos above. The Saudi government will confiscate any photographs of the mountain and will not allow any tourists into the country. But U.S. government satellite photos and a few private photos smuggled out of the country reveal the secret mountain by its unique blackened peak. Unlike the traditional site, there are thousands of acres in which to encamp at the base of this mountain, while clearly being visible from the mountaintop. Why would they hide that? Why don't they want you to see that? Why is the Saudi government hiding that? Because they don't want you to know who your creator really is, and they have to hide it. It shows a solitary tree between the two borders. It also shows a guardhouse, government sign, and fence around the front of Mount Jabal al-Luz, and it also shows the altar of the golden calf, and it says the base of which the golden calf altar was placed atop. Notice inscriptions of bulls. This is located in the encampment area out Mount Sinai in Arabia and in Midian. Wow. Is this the place where the Aaron built the golden calf, even though they weren't supposed to, during the time that Moses was in Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights? Looks like it. And as you can see, if you get closer, you can see the bulls here, you can see one there, you can see another there. Well, interesting. And then it says, and it gives a key to it. It says, a dozen giant boulders are stacked in the encampment area and reveal 12 ancient Egyptian petroglyphs of bulls. It is believed the golden calf was placed upon these rocks. Large altars are found on the east and west sides of the mountain, and here are some more photos, courtesy Aaron Sin. And it even shows Google as well, and it shows the archaeological area warning. And of course, they don't want people there, but the government acknowledges archaeological significance. They know the truth, but don't want you to see it. Why? Because they're hiding truth from you. It's time to wake up to the truth. And I know some of you are going to be willfully ignorant of this truth, but he that have an ear, let him hear. So it goes on from there and gives more pictures of actual artifacts. And like I said, I'm going to leave these links below so you can actually see it for yourself. But this shows Dr. Kim next to drawings in the encampment area. And he was a personal physician to the prince in Saudi Arabia and to the king. He lived in Saudi around 15 years. And you see more inscriptions of the actual biblical Exodus. And it even shows the menorah inscription on rocks in Saudi Arabia. It says, in the encampment area, Dr. Kim pointed to the oldest image of the golden oil lampstand ever found. This is where the lampstand was first made, the menorah. And we see it from there, and it goes on to talk about more research. I highly recommend you all look this stuff up for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions. But I'm even going to leave the links below and show you even more. Now we're at that same website again, and this talks about the Red Sea crossing, and the reason I'm showing you this is because I want you to see just the proof behind it all. But first it talks about a history of Moses having lived in Egypt as well prior to the Exodus taking place. Now personally, I believe that Moses was Amenhotep IV, but they say it was Tutmosis II. It could have been the same person. I do believe that the Exodus did take place in 1446 BC, but of course that's, up for debate as usual. However, of course, the traditional Mount Sinai, there's no evidence. Why? Because they want you to believe that it was fake. They want you to believe that it didn't take place. They need you to believe that it didn't happen. Why? Because they don't want you to know your true creator. They want you to be atheist as much as possible. But even if you try to show people this, they still want to argue and everything. when the truth is right in front of us. And the real biblical site of the Exodus is Nuweiba, Egypt. And it's going to show you just in a second in the actual route, which is the Red Sea on the east side of the Gulf of Aqaba. And it goes on to say that the wilderness has them entangled in actual pictures when traveling through the wilderness of the Red Sea. It talks about this in Exodus chapter 13 and 14. But when you go to the beach where the crossing took place, we're in Nuweiba, Egypt. And of course it says, Egyptian military fortress, probably Migdol, blocked any northern escape route along the beach. And it says, additionally, there were mountains obstructing their escape. To the south, the mountains came down to the sea, as mentioned by Josephus, for there was on each side a ridge of mountains that terminated at the sea, which were impassable by reason of their roughness and obstructed their flight. And this is according to the Antiquities of the Jews. And you can see the mountains at the beach today. The people were about to turn against Moses because he had led them to an area where they were trapped and would surely die, or so they thought. And of course, this is the Nuweiba beach. Then this is the actual crossing of the Exodus. And we can see, you'll see the column, you'll see the chariot wheels that are underwater in this area. I'm telling you, it's all here. Now, this is the granite column of Solomon. And it says this column matches one on the other side of the Gulf in Saudi Arabia, which had the inscriptions intact. The Hebrew words Mitzrayim, which means Egypt, death, water, Pharaoh, Edom, Yahuah, and Solomon were on that column. So what does that tell you? And it's Nuweiba, Egypt. That's where this is. That's where the column is found. And here's the column right here, which marks the crossing site. And in case you don't know, you'll find one of the columns on one side of Nuweiba, Egypt, as well as on the Saudi Arabia side, on the other side of the Gulf of Aqaba. But it says, King Solomon had these columns erected 400 years after the miracle of the crossing of the Red Sea on dry land. Solomon's seaport was at the northern tip of the Gulf of Aqaba at Elat, according to 1 Kings chapter 9, and he was very familiar with the Red Sea crossing site as it was in his neighborhood. The Bible even mentions this column in Isaiah chapter 19, verses 19, where it says, and that day there will be an altar to Yahuah in the midst of the land of Mitzrayim, or Egypt, and a pillar to Yahuah at its border. Wow, that's exactly right there. Interesting. You can visit the beach today and see the column in person, as this researcher was able to do in October 2005. And you can actually see it on Google Images as well. They show you right there. But what's also interesting is the name Nuweiba. Like I said, this name right here, Nuweiba, Egypt, is short for what? It's short for this name right here, Nuweiba al-Muzayina, which means, it means the waters of Moses opening. This is amazing. And the exact spot where the crossing took place, we have the site confirmed by maps, because that's the crossing route. This is Nuweiba, Egypt. This is the Gulf of Aqaba, and this is the side of Saudi Arabia, as you can see on a map. And you can keep going on with the pictures, the view at Red Sea. But what I want to really focus your attention to as well is the chariot wheels that were found in the sea at Nuweiba. Is that a coincidence? They even took pictures and found actual chariot wheels. Above chariot wheels fixed to axles, standing at attention on this seabed. You can see them right here. You can see one right here as well, and another right there. Above left, photo taken of a gilded chariot wheel that remains on the seafloor. It was found by Ron Wyatt using a molecular frequency generated from his boat above after he set the equipment to search for gold. The Bible said all the chariots of Egypt and 600 choice chariots of gold veneered models were in the army pursuing Yahuah Elohim's people. It is speculated there were 20,000 chariots destroyed that day. Above right is a drawing of a 4-spoke chariot found in an Egyptian tomb from the same time period. 4, 6, and 8 spoke wheels are found here in the Gulf and were only used at the same time during the 13th dynasty, or 1446 BC, when the Exodus took place. But do they want you to know that? Why are they hiding this from you should be the question. Why don't they want you to know this? There were numerous chariot wheels plus human and horse bones at the crossing site. Above on right is a human femur bone that is covered by coral and was tested at Stockholm University. It is from the right leg of a man 365 to 170 centimeters tall. It is basically mineralized by resting in the Red Sea for 3,500 years. And we see more coral covering chariot wheels on a vertical axle that is just buried in the sand. Although this is a typical, Bill Fry found this within 10 minutes of searching at Nuweiba. So case in point, you can find these chariot wheels in Nuweiba, Egypt. Oh, but you probably still think they're photoshopped. You probably still think this is a lie. It's time to wake up now. It goes on to say that Ron Wyatt found this wheel with the raised center hub. A common marker is the raised center hub that will give a metal reading when tested. And of course, this is how they tested it and how they were able to see it and the footage that they used. And what did they see? They see more chariot wheels were found, possibly connected to an axle. Notice the raised center hub. It is against the law to anchor a boat, so we were floating by this as the image was shot by the ROV. And it says above is a horse's hoof that is shrunken since drying out. Horses are not found in the Sinai Peninsula today. The fake one. I wonder why. So the conclusion, Mount Sinai is definitely in Saudi Arabia for sure, and not the Sinai Peninsula, because they're lying to you. But it says again, above, a round chariot wheel found off the Gulf of Aqaba coast of Saudi Arabia, opposite of Nuweiba, Egypt. And you can see the photo courtesy Vivica Ponton. And it goes on, and we see another chariot wheel next to it. And it goes on and even has a documentary. I'm going to leave the links below so you can see it for yourself. And please do the research on this on your own and then come to your own conclusions. But for all you skeptics out there, yes, the Exodus is real. It is true. Egyptians have even written about the Exodus. And I'm going to tell you and prove to you just what I'm talking about. I'm going to turn your attention now to what's called the Yahuah papyrus, which is an ancient papyrus that was taken from Egypt and actually just so happened to quite well document the Exodus quite well and has many specific mentions of the Exodus. And I'm going to leave the link for this below too. But it says, in the early 19th century, a papyrus dating from the end of the Middle Kingdom was found in Egypt. It was taken to the Leiden Museum in Holland and interpreted by A.H. Gardner in 1909. The complete papyrus can be found in the book Admonitions of an Egyptian from Hieratic Papyrus in Leiden. The papyrus describes violent upheavals in Egypt, starvation, drought, escape of slaves with the wealth of the Egyptians, and death throughout the land. The papyrus was written by an Egyptian named Yahuah and appears to be an eyewitnessing account of the effects of the Exodus plagues from the perspective of an average Egyptian. Below are excerpts from the papyrus together with their parallels in the book of Exodus. And if you want a lengthier discussion of the papyrus and the historical background of the Exodus, see Jewish Action Spring 1995 article by Brad Aronson entitled When Was the Exodus? Of course, be very careful because so-called Jews, they do lie because the real Jews are so-called black people. But anyway, let's keep going. It says, Yahuah papyrus, Leiden 344. It says, according to 2, verse 5 and 6, plague is throughout the land, blood is everywhere. 2:10, the river is blood. Men shrink from tasting human beings and thirst after water. That is our water. That is our happiness. What shall we do in respect thereof? All is ruin, which happens to match a bunch of what the Torah says in Exodus or Shamut chapter 7 verses 20 to 24, where it says all of the rivers of the water returned to blood. There was blood throughout all the land of Egypt, and the river stank, and all the Egyptians dug around the water for river to drink, for they could not drink of the water of the river. And you still think that this is a fake? You better wake up. But then, like I said, you can match it from in the Torah and what Exodus says, and here's chapters 9 and 10. But it goes on to say, for in the Yahuah papyrus, forsooth, gates, columns, and walls are consumed by fire. Lower Egypt weeps, the entire palace is without its revenues. To it belong by right wheat and barley, geese and fish. Forsooth, grain has perished on every side. Forsooth, that has perished which was yesterday seen. The land is left over to its weariness like the cutting of flax. Then it says, all animals their hearts weep, cattle moan. Behold, cattle are left to stray, and there is none to gather them together. And this is, of course, the equivalent in Shamut, in Exodus chapter 9, where it says, the hand of Yahuah is upon thy cattle which is in the field, and there shall be a very grievous sickness. Gather thy cattle and all that thou hast in the field. And he that did not fear the word of Yahuah left his servants and cattle in the field. The land is without light, according to the Yahuah papyrus, and according to the Torah in Shamut chapter 10 verses 22. And there was a thick darkness in all the land of Mitzrayim or Egypt. And it goes on to say, Forsooth, the children of princes are dashed against the walls. Forsooth, the children of princes are cast out in the streets. The prison is ruined. He who places his brother in the ground is everywhere. It is groaning throughout the land, mingled with lamentations. And according to Shamut, or Exodus chapter 12, it says, And it came to pass that at midnight Yahuah smote all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, or Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive that was in the prison. There was not a house where there was not one dead. There was a great cry in Egypt, just like as the papyrus says, there was groaning throughout the land. And mind you, this Epura papyrus, this is an actual document. It's real. It is a real document. This is by an actual Egyptian who had first-hand account of the Exodus. So we know it's not a lie. It's the truth. It actually happened. But it goes on to say in the Epura papyrus, Behold, the fire has mounted up on high. Its burning goes forth against the enemies of the land. And then in Exodus chapter 13 verses 21 it says, By day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and night. Wow. And then it says, Gold and lapis lazuli, silver and malachite, carnelian and bronze are fastened on the neck of female slaves. And then this says in Exodus chapter 12 verses 35 to 36, And they requested from the Egyptians silver and gold articles and clothing, and Yahuah Elohim made the Egyptians favor them, and they granted their request. The Israelites thus drained Egypt of its wealth. Here we are at another source, and this is according to the Messianic Literary Corner, where it also proves ancient Egyptian chariots found in the Red Sea. And where were they found? In the Gulf of Aqaba. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is so that you can see and do the research on your own. But it says, the Hebrew exodus from Egypt is in scope the most miraculous event ever to be recorded by man. Its historicity, though, has been challenged and reduced to mere mythology by many religious theologians or atheists and biblical archaeologists until recently. In 1978, Ron Wyatt, a biblical archaeologist without formal training, confounded the opponents of biblical historical accuracy by discovering the true Exodus Red Sea crossing in the Gulf of Aqaba at Nuweiba, Egypt, Sinai Peninsula, and it's been validated with the discovery of remains of ancient Egyptian army chariots lying at the bottom of an underwater land bridge connecting Sinai to Saudi Arabia. Many coral-encrusted chariot wheels and a gilded four-spoke chariot wheel were found. Fossilized human and horse bones were also recovered, but carbon dating was not possible. At least that's what they want us to believe. And you can find links here more of the discovery and the research and videos as well. And like I said, come to your own conclusions. But like I said, they found this stuff, folks. This stuff is no longer a secret. They found the real authentic Mount Sinai. They found the real authentic everything. They found it all in Nuweiba, Egypt. It's right there. Just go search it for yourself. Do your own research. They found the real Red Sea. They found the real crossing. They found all of this stuff. But that's not all they found, because I'm going to take you to another source that also talks about what else did they find and why it relates to biblical stories and prophecies as well. Now, this rock that you're looking at is the rock that's called Femin Stele. And what it means is that this rock details in Egypt, and this is found in the island of Sahel in Egypt, the rock of the 7-year famine that was spoken of in the book of Genesis during the time of Joseph. And this is the actual inscription of the rock and how it looks. And later on I'm going to take you to what it says, but I want you to see just for yourself just how they're finding real biblical artifacts, and that this stuff, no, it's not photoshopped, no, it's not a lie, but you could keep sitting there thinking it is, even though the truth says otherwise. Now, this gives partial text of what they found on the island of Sahel, which is the Femin Stele, or the rock that they found that proves that there was in fact a 7-year famine during the time of Egypt and during the time of Joseph. But it says, during the reign of Dozier, the 3rd dynasty, a terrible drought lasted for 7 years. And it says, I was in mourning on my throne. Those of the palace were in grief, because Happy had failed to come in time. In the period of 7 years, grain was scant, kernels were dried up. Every man robbed his twin, children cried. The hearts of the old were needy, temples were shut, shrines covered with dust, everyone was in distress. I consulted one of the staff of the Ibis, the chief lector priest of Imhotep, and Imhotep is said to be Joseph, by the way, son of Ptah, south of the wall. He departed, he returned to me quickly, he let me know the flow of happy. Imhotep, or Joseph, a high official and Renaissance man, revealed to the king that the Nile had its origins in a land consecrated to Khnum, and gave an account of the building materials available at Elephantine. Khnum appeared to Djoser in a dream with the promise to end the drought and describe how a temple should be built. Grateful, Djoser reestablished the cult of Khnum at Elephantine, and we know the story of Genesis, where of course the Pharaoh has a dream and doesn't know how to interpret it. So then Joseph interprets and says that what would happen, that there would be 7 years of plentiful and 7 years worth of a famine. Wow, sounds exactly just like this. And of course, this is the partial translation of the Stela text, and Imhotep, or Joseph's account of Elatines, its gods and minerals. And this is what he says in sort of the sacrifice and dream. You could come read this here yourself, but I just thought it was interesting because the text does reveal what? 7 years of a famine. And it even talks about it there. So this stuff is real, folks, and it's time to see the truth for what it really is. But that's not all, because we also know that Noah's Ark has been founded as well. They found Noah's Ark, and where did they find it? In Mount Ararat in present-day Turkey. You can also do research on that on your own. But I'm telling you this to tell you that, yes, the Bible is true. The word of Yahuah is true. Now, they've been lying to you for so long and making you think that, there's no archaeological evidence, because the reason there's no archaeological evidence, according to them, is because they're the ones hiding it. Just because it's hidden doesn't mean it's not there. Just because it's hiding doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because it does. And Yahuwah's word is true. But like I said, I hope that when I leave these links, you will do your own research on your own and come to your own conclusions, and not believe everything I say, but actually do the research for yourself and really discover this stuff for yourself, folks, because you'll see just how interesting it really is. But if you already haven't, please seek Yahuah and his true son Yahusha, and really seek the word of Yahuah on your own, so that you too can see the truth for what it really is. This is Truth Unveiled. Shalom.
All right, family. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the video on. I'm going to actually put the actual video on of these men who found the real Mount Sinai. So I'm going to play a bit of the documentary and let you hear it in their own words. The information that Truth Unveiled just shared with us can be found if you go to his video link. He has links there, as he pointed out, and even if you Google the real Mount Sinai, just Google the real Mount Sinai, all of those links and information is found here also. But I want you to see video footage of the area, okay? And if I'm not going to show the whole documentary because it's pretty long, but it goes into a lot of details. So I'm going to share a little bit of it with you. But before I share the documentary, the video, I just wanted to stop and see if there are any questions so far on what has been presented. So let me just take a moment and check the board, and also to see if there are any questions that anyone might have. Okay, we're back. Okay. All right.
Yeah, Aki.
Yes, go ahead, Aki. I see that question, Akut Sharon. I'm going to come to you. Go ahead, Aki.
Yeah. Well, we just watched Truth Unveiled. Yeah, she puts out a lot of, good information as far as what the government and the so-called, the government and the so-called elite Illuminati and Jesuits and all that. She put a lot of good information out that really, because she used to work for the government.
Okay.
and so she has privileged information, well, having access to getting certain kind of documents of the military and the government on the private sector also, and put out a lot of real good information. But I listen to her a lot, and she kind of misquote things like "we are the Jews" when we know we're not, and the Bible is true and we know that's not the truth. But overall, she does know who Yahuah is. And as far as I haven't really, I follow her on, just keep myself abreast of what's going on out here and so forth. But as far as her understanding, as far as Yahuah having attributes and not saying that Yahusha is the son and all that kind of stuff. I'm still trying to see where she's at on that. So just keep an eye on that if you listen to it.
Yes, indeed. I was told by Aki Trevin of the video, and I think it's Aki. He has quite a high pitched voice. But I think it's he and not she. Maybe you might be correct and I'm wrong. I don't forgive me, but yes, go ahead, Aki.
Yeah, it is a he. His name is Chris, because he has showed his face on several of his videos. So yeah, it's a he.
Okay. Yeah, so it's he. Yeah. So yeah. Now and I've watched some of the checked out some of his videos. Okay, his name is Chris. Okay, I've checked out some of his videos, and he has some good information. And again, he is growing. What I recognize is that he is growing, but he's very zealous for Yahuah. But growth, it's a process, right? And so. And we all continue to grow because if we're not, then we're stagnant, and so prayerfully we continue to grow. But I do recognize those things. I do recognize them. But what I hope is that he seemed to be one that really really searches. And if you're searching, you're not going to remain in places of not knowing, you see. And so in time, those things, I believe that Yahuah will reveal them to him in time, as long as he is seeking in humility. And so now I've seen some of the videos. I believe that I came across one of his videos, and when I saw the video, I disagreed with it. And as things turned out, it proves my disagreement. And I'm going to tell you specifically what I'm talking about as far as things unfolding, right? Aki just mentioned a lot of things that he present about the Illuminati and so on and so forth. I saw one video that he had presented leading up to the conventions, and it was talking about, and he wasn't the first person that I saw present that information. There are Christian groups out there presented this information. Christian so-called what you call them, conservative, Christian conservative, was presenting this movement. I have another definition for Christian conservatives. They're just another branch of the KKK, as far as I'm concerned. But I saw this video that he had, and it had probably over 200,000 views. It was a lot of people that watched the video in a very short time. but it was talking about basically people paying the Black Lives Matter movement and other people to start riots at the political conventions, and then that's going to lead to martial law, and this is the whole plan of the government. You know, it was just a lot of that in it. When I saw it, I didn't buy it because what I do know is that COINTELPRO is still very much alive. Okay, COINTELPRO is still very much alive, and when anybody dare to stand up and speak out about what's happening, the kind of injustice that plagues our people, then you have entities out there, governmental and private, who put out information like that. They make stunning videos. They create stunning websites. They put out information that look quite real. And the only purpose of it, the sole purpose of it, is to discredit the reality of a people. And so you'll notice that I don't come in here and present a lot of that stuff, because you know what that's called? It's called COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO. It's not new. It's been around since the 60s, and it's still very much alive. And that's where they present false information to discredit people who dare to speak up. And when the discrediting don't work, the next thing they do is they murder them. Okay, and that's just the fact. You can research it. It's an historical fact. The evidence is there. The literal papers, documents from the government is there, because they've been sued and it had to be made public. They had all kinds of people on their hit list who end up dead, you see. And so that's the reality. So they're still up to their same slimy stuff. And so when that information was put out about this race war, them trying to start a race war to usher in martial law, and that Obama was going to stay in office, he's not going to leave office. Listen, that's Christian conservatism, and even the government putting out false information, to discredit or to silence voices of reason, you see. So I saw a video where he was repeating that, and again, I thought it was poor judgment. But again, it's a learning process, but he presents some very good information from some of the videos. I haven't watched all his videos, not near watched, come close to watching all his videos. I've only seen maybe 2 or 3 of them. But from what I see, he does present some great information, and he is very zealous for the truth. And so, Yahuah will certainly continue to lead him in that. Now, I'm going to play a video from the people who found the... Oh, wait. Akut Sharon had a question. She had asked, okay, so what do we use? What should we use? Okay, Akut. So here's the thing, and Aki Chris, in that video, he also said it, right? When it comes to, the question was about the Bible. What do we use? What should we use? And Aki Chris said it. These people, they put the truth right under your nose, okay? Now, there are a lot of scriptures, and there I have videos on YouTube. I think I have some of these videos on YouTube where I've gone and just basically gone behind the scene and look at the actual text to see what's written as opposed to what's translated. And you will see oftentimes that in many cases what's translated is not what's written, right? But the key is to go behind the scenes. So I'm going to put something on the screen here. There are a lot of tools out there. There are a lot of tools out there that we can use. Okay, we can compare scrolls. I had a lot of these links ready on hand for questions like this, but because of computer issues over the years, I've lost many of these links. I've lost more stuff than I have on hand anymore because of computer problems. But when I was laid off, seeing the difference is now I work. I'm at work, and I'm always at work for the most of the time during the week, so I don't have as much time to collect and put things together the way that I did before. So what I've lost, I have a hard time, doing the research, which takes a lot of time, and putting it back together, to have it, to present it. But I have, there are a lot of sources out there. You can actually view the scrolls online, different codices or codices. You can actually view them online. You can view the digital scan of many of the codexes or codices, which are, what I'm talking about is, I'm talking about the Abari writings written in Paleo Abari. You can actually view them online, and you can compare them with other text that they use in these Bible programs, okay, which is what I used to do, okay. But so many of these links I had, and I've lost many of them, but that's what I used to do, especially in studying the language and so on. That's what I would do, is gather all these sources and I would compare them, But let me just show you something very quickly. This is a simple one, but it's a very quick way to and we've got to commit to putting an effort into learning how the language works. A lot of people spend a lot of time learning to speak Hebrew. A lot of people spend a lot of time learning to speak Hebrew, and that's what they speak, is Hebrew. But we have to understand that Hebrew is not Abari. Hebrew is Yiddish in every way. There is not such a word as Hebrew. There was not such a word as Hebrew until it was designed by the Yids, okay, by the Jews. When I say the Yids, I'm talking about the Jews, because before they were known as Jews, before the letter J was developed and came into popular use, they were known as Yids. And the Yids speaks Yiddish, okay? The Yid speaks Yiddish. What is Yiddish? Yiddish is a cross between European dialects and the Abari language. Yiddish is a culmination. Yiddish is a culmination of European dialects and the Abari language. And so the Khazar people, what they did was, when they joined an unfaithful allegiance to the people of Yashar, they learned our language, and then what they did was they took our language, married it with their language, and then as they scattered throughout Europe after the fall of King Bulan, the king of the Khazars, after he was defeated and they scattered throughout Europe, they went into Poland, they went into Russia and other places, and so what they did was that wherever they went, into London, into England, and so on, wherever they went, they whatever dialect, European dialect they took on, they still married that with that language and with the Abari language, and that's how Yiddish came about. So the people that we call today, before they were known as Jews, they were known as Yids. Okay, and Yid is a German name because they're originally from Germany. Okay, they're originally from Germany, and Germany and Germany and Austria at one time was the same country, but they split. Okay, and so that's where they came from. And later on, when the letter J was developed, the letter J was invented around 800 years ago, but only became popular around almost 600 years ago. But so after the letter J was developed and became popular, that's where they began to call themselves Jews instead of Yids. But they still call their language Yiddish. Okay? So, and then they turn it to Hebrew. Okay? But what's modern day Hebrew? What's Hebrew today, what's considered Hebrew today is just a modern form of Yiddish, okay? You have the older form of Yiddish, and Hebrew is the modern form of Yiddish. So a lot of time our people spend a lot of time learning Hebrew. And Hebrew and Yiddish is not the same thing, you see? Hebrew is a corrupted form of our language. Hebrew is a corrupted form of our language. Again, you won't even find the word Hebrew in the scriptures. What you will find is you will find Abari, you will find Abarim. Our language is Abari. You see, the people are Abarim. Okay, so that's that. Anyway, I'm going to leave that for a second. And I want to just show you now the video, a bit of the, oh, yes. So no, before I show the video, let me go here, Akut Sharon had asked, so what do we use? So there are a lot of sources. But I'm just going to use this one real quick to give you an example. Okay, this is BibleHub.com. You can go to BlueLetterBible.com. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me go to BlueLetterBible.com and show you something else also. But before I go to BlueLetterBible.com, let me show you something on Bible Hub. Now, on Bible Hub, you have the ability to use the parallel scriptures, the interlinear, and you have the lexicon, and but this is what you have to learn. And as you study, these things become clear. That when you go to the lexicon, you can't simply take what they put in English for it. Okay, you can't simply take what they put in English as the final thing. So let me go to. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go to Shamut, the book of Shamut, real quick. I'm going to use something as an example. Shamut, which is Exodus, and I'm going to go to chapter 20. I want to show you a couple of things here very quickly. Exodus chapter 20, Shamut chapter 20. Okay, now I'm in the lexicon right now. You can use the interlinear, okay? The interlinear. Now what they do here is they take the text as it is written on the codices, and they put them in digitally, okay, in the new box type font. Okay, this is called the Babylonian box type font. This is what's used today in Hebrew. They use the Babylonian box type or box style font. That's what this font is known as. Our people, when they went into captivity into Babylon, began using this. This is a Babylonian font. Okay, they began using it in Babylon. But before that, before it was the Babylonian box type font. So here's what we got to know about our language. With every captivity that we go through have had an impact or an effect on the language, okay, on the way that it's written. Okay, every captivity that we have gone through have had some kind of effect on our language. So, but before the Babylonian captivity, what Yasharal used to write in was, they used to write in Paleo. Okay. But what's interesting is that even they were writing in Paleo, Paleo in other captivities, as a result of other captivities, even their Paleo changed. So you have one form of Paleo that came out of one captivity, but then they go into another captivity, and then you see Paleo in that captivity, it kind of changed a little bit. So even the Paleo style has two different styles of writing. Okay, and then you have before Paleo, the two forms of Paleo, you have the what they call the proto. Never can say it right, but the Proto-Sinaitic, I believe, is the way you would say it. the Proto-Semitic type, the Proto-Semitic form. And these are what you will see. As a matter of fact, I have a picture that I created, a banner that I created for this real Mount Sinai. At that time, now, a Proto-Semitic, at that time, this Proto-Semitic is what they would use to write, even at Mount Sinai. And what Proto-Semitic is they're literally using pictures. They're using literal pictures to communicate. They're not using words. They're using literal pictures to communicate. And that's the way that the Abari language is. It's pictures. It's not like in English where you have letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. It's pictures. When they talk about a house, to communicate that they're talking about a house, they draw a house. Okay? To talk about strength, to tell you that they're talking about strength, they draw an ox. Why? That's why we say the idea to be as strong as an ox did not begin with us. That goes way back. People have always known that an ox is strong. So when they want to communicate about strength, they draw an ox. You see, so the language, the Proto-Semitic form was a very pictographic form. So is the what I just talked about there, the Paleo. But the problem with the Paleo is that it became more stylish and less. The pictures were still there, but not as easy to see as in the Proto-Semitic form. So that's the effect that captivity have had on the language, and it has had an effect on the language up to this very day. Okay, now, so going back now to what I was showing you, Akut, here. Let me go back to this. Where did I go? Okay, 1 second. Okay, so you can go to the interlinear. Okay, and that's a good way to go. Okay, you can also go to the parallel. Okay, but the key is, in order to use this effectively, you got to familiarize yourself. Not parallel. There's another one that will show you it in the box style font, and then in English, I forget what that's called. And you can go to the lexicon. Now, when you go to the lexicon, do not think. Some people say they use the lexicon or they checked on a word. So you see a lot of people today, and they say they're speaking Hebrew or they're writing Hebrew, and they're using letters like I and sounds, I, E, W, V, J, and different things like that, and they say they're speaking Hebrew. They say they're speaking the language of Scripture. That's not the language of Scripture. That's the Jewish corruption of the language, because there is no I in the language, there is no E, there is no W, there is no V, so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, you know what? The letter W, the letter V, the letter W and the letter V are the two most recent additions to the alphabet, and that is to the English alphabet. The letter W and the letter V. Okay, the letter W and the letter V is so recent that when you read slave documents, when you read documents written by whites in the 1600s and the 1700s and the 1800s, they couldn't make up their mind as to whether they want to use the V, the U, or the W. And in the earlier cases, like in the 1600s and even in the 1700s, you will not find a W in any writings written by English people. You won't find a W. Instead of a W, what you're going to find is a U. And then later on it became a V. So you can look up older writings from English people, and you'll find in the 1600s and even in the 1700s, you don't find a W. You'll find U or V, okay, but no W. So the W came later on, okay. So when people say that there's a W in the Abari language, there is no W in the Abari language. You look up the history of the letter W, it will show you, you will see immediately. Just Google the origin of the letter W. Go to the dictionary, dictionary.com, just type in W, hit search, and look at what it tells you about W. And you will see real quickly that W is a newcomer. You see, the letter J started out about 800 years ago, but it didn't become popular until a little going on 600 years now. Okay, so on and so forth. So when we do the research, we realize and we learn that these are contradictions. So there is no E in the language, there is no W in the language, there is no V in the language. But people will come to the concordance, and because they're not paying attention to what's actually here, they're not paying attention to what's here. You know what they're doing? They're paying attention to what's here. Okay? Excuse me. Excuse me, wow. They're not paying attention to what's here. They're not paying attention to what's here. They're paying attention to what's here. Now, when you come over here, you need to understand that all these little dots, dot, dot, and this, that, dot, none of them belong there. They were put there by the Jews. Okay? Now, right here in this, right where we're at right now, we're looking at the lexicon. Okay? And what you're seeing, let me show you something. We're looking at this word, the word for all. The word for all. Okay? Now, if you are someone who come to the lexicon and you look over here to determine what this over here is saying, if you look here to determine what this is saying, you're always going to be wrong. Okay? But oftentimes, so what this is, it's not coal. It's not coal because there is no O. Okay? In the language, there's the O sound, but there's literally no O. And technically, you could say there is no U either. Okay? Because Abari is different. But what you have is the double O sound, which the best way we can transliterate that is with a U, not with an O. Okay? So this is kal. This is kal. Okay? Kal. And it says it comes from the root kalal. Okay? So this word is not kol, it is kal. And oftentimes over here they will tell you. They will tell you what it should actually be. Sometimes, not all the time. Okay? Sometimes they still leave it corrupted over here. But this is kal. Okay, not coal. Okay, so these are just some of the things that we got to learn about it. Now let me show you. I talked about the vowel points here a moment ago. Now let me just show you something else very quickly. When I tell you that the vowel points don't belong, they don't belong. They're a Jewish thing. They're not an Abari thing. Okay, so they use vowel points, and that's how they invent the E and the W and the V and the so on. Without the vowel points, and people confuse vowel points with vowels. I'm not talking about vowels, I'm talking about vowel points. Without the vowel points, there is no E, no V, no J, no this, no that in the language. So I'm going to go to one more site. Now see your flag there, Aki Matat Yahu. I'm going to come to you very quickly. I'm trying to hurry up my speech so I can get to you and also play a little piece of this video real quick also. So let me go to one more site and show you that the vowel points don't belong, and some sites actually give you the option to remove them, and some sites don't even include them, period. Okay, so let me go to one more site and show you how they give you the option to remove them. BlueLetterBible.com. BlueLetterBible.com. Okay, BlueLetterBible.com. I'm trying to pull it up here. It's moving kind of slow. I have a lot of windows open. Okay. Now, when you go to BlueLetterBible.com, let me just move the. My computer is acting up. I have too many windows open. You go to BlueLetterBible.com. Let's see. I'm gonna go to a text. Let's just go to Shamut. Let's go to Shamut chapter 1. moving a little slow. Bear with me here, family. Okay. You go to blueletterbible.com, you go to Shamut, click on Tools, and let's see. I think if you go to, let me try to go to the, I'm going to try dictionary. I don't remember, no, not dictionary. 1 second. Let's try interlinear. Let's see. Okay. Now, when you go to blueletterbible.com, blueletterbible.com, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to enlarge my screen a little bit. Hopefully you can see it better. You go to blueletterbible.com. If you go to interlinear, it allows you, you see that little check mark right there? It allows you to remove the vowel points. So if I click on that check mark, my computer is acting slow. It's not responding as quick as it should. When I click on that check mark, it says show vowel points. If I take it off, it removed the vowel points. Okay, remove the vowel points. Click it back, it put them back. Okay, give me the option to remove them because they really don't belong. Okay, give me the option to remove them or to put them back, but they really don't belong. The language does not need them. Okay, so it gives me the option to remove them because they don't belong, and that's what messes people up because they think that they belong. And so when you're listening to these CDs, say you're learning Hebrew, that's what you're learning, a corrupted form of the language. But some people don't think it matters, but I believe it matters. It matters greatly. Okay. All right. Let me go to. We could talk more about that, but we have some other stuff we're trying to get to real quickly. So let me go to Aki Matat Yahu before I go any further. Aki Warrior, please go ahead, Aki.
It really wasn't too much, Keith. Just I wanted to say that as far as when you was doing the lexicon, when you was in the Bible Hub, that the reason a lot of times because I catch myself doing it, and I know others are doing it too. But when you go over to when you're in the lexicon, as far in the Blue Hub, the Bible Hub, when they see the Arabic writing, the block letter form Arabic writing over there, they ignore it. Mm-hmm. And you know why they ignore it? Because they don't know it. They don't understand it. Mm-hmm. They don't take time to understand what that is saying. Yes. So they'll go right there where you say that we shouldn't go and say, "Oh yeah, that's it. I got it now." Mm-hmm. And then they won't even move all the way to the far right to see the origin of the where it might have sometime the correct pronunciation.
Exactly.
And ignore that too.
Exactly.
And I mean, because I found when I initially started doing it, I was caught. Mm-hmm. I was caught in that trap.
Yes.
And then I had to, the Ruach, slow me down and said, no, study to show yourself approved, workman rightly understanding the word.
Yes.
So, we got to slow ourselves down when it comes to Yahuwah's the bar, and it's tedious studying when it comes to this. It's not going to come to us in an instant. Bam, there it is. Mm-hmm. It's we grow in the truth, and we have to take our time in studying. We just coming out of this Babylonian mindset of being lied to, as you continue to speak on, and we it's not going to come to us in a flash, and Yahuwah has to sit us down. We have to sit in a quiet place and that Yahuwah speak to us.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Indeed, Aki. Indeed. And you so rightly proclaim that. And that's absolutely true. I like to use another one as an example too, to support what you were just saying, and I'm looking for the verse here in Shamut chapter 20. Yep, I'm gonna go to verse 3, I believe. Let me just see. I might be looking too hard here. Now let me give you another example real quick here. Something simple, and there are a lot of things that we can use as example. But if you have learned Hebrew, then if you're learning Hebrew, they'll tell you the way you say no. The way you say no is lo or lo, right? Lo. They say lo. Lo. That's the way you say no. Okay, if you're learning Hebrew. But if you're learning Abari, the word is not lo or lo, lo. What do we have? This is the word here. These vowel points don't belong. What we have is lamad aleph, la, lamad aleph, which is la, not lo. You see, and there are many examples that we have right here in Shamut chapter 20. Also, if you're looking at it, it will tell you, Yahuah says, you must not shua my name. But what do they say? When the word shua comes up, they say, you must not shav my name. S-H-A-V. But it doesn't say shav. But if you only come to the lexicon and look at what they say, and not look over here as a key, Yahuah just remind us, then we're gonna always fall for the trick, right? Anyway, that's that. I just want to give an example. Now, I came here again to show Akut Sharon that what we can do as we use the Bible, we can come to tools like this, but we gotta work on getting an understanding of the language, basic understanding of the language. And we can come to tools like this, the interlinear, the lexicon, and other tools, and we can see literally how they change things and how they take away things, because you will see in here things that have been added or subtracted. You will see in a translation it says something, and then when you come over here to look at it, there is no word for words that you see in the translation. In other words, they just add a whole sentence in. They just had entire phrases in. You see, a lot of people are not aware even that when you go over to the new writings, what they call the New Testament, for example, Matthew chapter 28 and verse 19, that don't exist in any what do you call ancient writings, ancient texts. It does not exist. It only appeared some 400 years later, after those who walked with Yahusha had died, some 400 years after them. It doesn't appear in any text. You see, any scriptural text, any writings. It appeared some 400, almost 500 years later. Where did it come from? The Catholic Church. You see, they freely put stuff in and take stuff out. And there are many examples of that. The same thing with the book of Mark. Okay? They add about 6 chapters to the book of Mark. In the book of Yahukanan, they add 2 verses, you see, not found in any text other than in the Catholic text and the Catholic Church forged documents, you see. So these are just examples. Let me go to Aki Rob and the Kutshar. I see your flag, Mashpaka. Please go ahead.
Shalom, Mashpaka. It's great to be here and great to see you. All praises to Yahuah. Okay, now, oh, you erased that. I wanted you to show them something on there.
Oh, let me go back.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
She's been showing me a key.
Oh,
okay. You see a key? I wanted you to, if you could expound on, see where it says Yahweh or Yahuah, however. You
let me
see,
get
and
it. Yep.
then over in the Abari or the Yiddish, what the modern
Yes.
Hebrew, where
Yes.
it says Yahuah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would kind of wanted you to go over that with them.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. So even with the name, Tuda Akut, Tuda, even with the name, right? So what we have with Yahuwah's name, we have Yad, Hey, Hu, Hey. Basically, you have Y, H, U, which is represented as a U when we transliterate it, H, Yad, Hey, Hu, Hey. Okay? Now, what's interesting, the U here, they put it as a W. But again, we just talked about the letter W, how young it is. And here's the other thing. Where did the E come from? There is no E in the language. So what they do is they use these little things down here to tell you that you turn this into a W and you turn that into an E, so on and so forth. But when you dig into the name, now they tell you, if you come to the root here is also deceptive, because they tell you that the root, that this name, Yahuah, they say Yahweh, totally false and corrupt. They say that it comes from Hava, but it does not come from Hava. Remember now, there is no V in the language. Okay, the V is a German invented letter. You can research it, look it up. V, the German car VW, that's the origin of V. Okay, German, totally German, VW. Okay, they're proud of their V and their W. They even made a car after their invention of the letters V and W. Okay, now, so they tell you Hava. Okay, but it's not Hava. It comes from Hua. Okay, now 3068 is the root. Okay, 3068. And the name of our Creator is a combination of two numbers, of two strong numbers, okay, of two words in the Abari. 3068, okay, and 3091, okay, and oh no, more too, when we consider Mashiach. But 3068, when you dig into 3068, again, now look at their thing here. If you trail there, if you follow their trail, you end up with all kinds of contradictions. So they say that the way that you should say it is Y-E-H, yeah, H-O, ho, V-A-W, va, Yehovah, okay? But yet they tell you in another place that it's Yahweh, okay? Yahweh and Yehovah is not the same thing, right? And then they tell you in another place it's Jehovah, and so on and so forth. If you follow their trail, you'll find nothing but contradictions. But if you look at the name, okay, if you look at the name, going back to what we were just looking at, Yad He Hu He, okay, Yad He Hu He, Y-H-U-H, okay, not Y-H-W-H, and then somehow there's an E make its way in there. So if you should come to the lexicon, if you only look at the transliteration and don't pay attention to what's written over here, you're gonna leave saying Yahweh. That's why it's important for us to study the language, to get a basic understanding of the language at least, okay? And so that when you begin to do that, that's where you begin to see the contradictions. This is a blatant contradiction right here, and we can go much deeper with this, but you know, and Akut, if you have anything else that you would like to add to make it more clear for the rest of the family, that would be greatly appreciated, Akut.
Key, I think you said it perfectly.
Praise Father, praise Yahuwah.
Tuda Rabah.
Tuda to you. Okay. Well, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a look at the video concerning Mount Sinai. We saw the links, the articles, but I want you to see the video. I want you to see it I want you to see it fluid, in a fluid form. Okay, so I'm gonna play this video, not all of it, just a portion of it here very quickly, and I'll probably skip through it a little bit, but I want you to see the video very quickly. Okay, let me make sure all my screens are being shared. Okay, let me just check with, yep, Fuse is being shared, so everybody will be able to see.
Why don't people know? I thought everybody knew where it was. That question.
The desert holds an ancient secret, a secret guarded for centuries. But secrets can't be kept forever. A mountain in a forbidden land, shrouded in mystery. Many have searched for it, few have seen it.
When I saw a question mark in the Bible, what is that doing there?
I don't know why it's been ignored. I guess the tradition is so strong.
Yet in Saudi Arabia, we find something doesn't belong there.
The world needs to know that this is not myth and legend, not allegory. This is real.
I just saw it.
Now, two men have the proof.
Larry looks over and looked me right in the eye and said, "Bob, I think we're making history."
Epic myth becomes burning truth. Mountain of Fire. The precise location of Mount Sinai has eluded both archaeologists and theologians for centuries. It is the mountain of legend, chronicled in the Old Testament book of Exodus. The mountain where Moses saw the glory of the God of the Hebrews, where he fell to his knees in fear before a burning bush, and where he received the stone tablets containing holy law etched by the finger of God. Tradition has placed this fabled mountain squarely in the middle of the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula. But an unlikely pair of adventurers believe differently.
Well, in Orange County, California, I was a policeman for years. Started off being in patrol and then went into being a crime scene investigator, collecting evidence and analyzing crime scenes. And I was on the first SWAT team that they implemented on the police department, and it was pretty intense.
I've spent the last 40 years basically as a speculator, trading stocks and commodities. I have a degree in journalism from the University of Oregon. Was raised in a religious family, so the history of religion has always interested me.
Larry Williams is certainly one of the most interesting people I've ever met. A famous man, ran for United States Senator twice. Ronald Reagan campaigned for him. World-renowned commodities trader, a man of wealth.
You just instantly see in Bob that here was a guy that I had a lot of natural affinity with. I just felt good being around him. It was exciting. I walk away from business and do interesting things as well in my life. Because life should be more than just business. I've always been enamored with treasure hunting, the great unknown, great stories about things like, oh yeah, that's a really cool story, but is there anything to it or is it a myth?
Well, I met a man named Jim Irwin who was the 8th man to walk on the moon. He was a piece of history. When he came back from the moon, he wanted to do something different with his life. He felt that he had a calling by God to go look for lost locations in the Bible. He was involved heavily with looking for Noah's Ark at the time, and I thought that was fascinating.
When you look at the great archaeological discoveries of the world, they have not been found by archaeologists. Whether it's the Machu Picchu or the lost city of Ur, the Dead Sea Scrolls, you go on and on, they're found by people that are adventurers. Well, that little question mark in the back of Bible is really what got me involved in this entire thing. My friendship with Bob and everything else notwithstanding, when I saw a question mark in the Bible, that piqued my interest. What is that doing there? Why don't people know? I thought everybody knew where it was. That question mark got me to spend a small fortune in this search.
That search begins with a series of clues that came in the form of a mysterious letter, written by explorer David Fossold and given to them by Irwin, hinting that the real Mount Sinai might actually be in Saudi Arabia.
we had kind of an idea of where to go and how to get there, but David wasn't able to come back with any documentation because he was arrested and couldn't get anything out other than what he carried in his mind.
Cornuke and Williams agree. They will use the book of Exodus as their roadmap. Through research, they begin to compile a list of sites they will have to find to identify the true Mount Sinai. After 400 years of slavery in Egypt, the Israelites fled toward this holy mountain as they were pursued by the armies of Pharaoh. They decide to start their quest by examining the site of the traditional Mount Sinai in Egypt, known simply as St. Catherine's.
It received its name, some say, by Queen Helena, mother of Constantine, the Emperor of Rome, and that she guessed that this was the mountain. And I guess being the mother of the Emperor of Rome, you have a little bit of power, and they put it down on a map, and then tradition just carries on. The Roman Church perpetuated it, we know, quite extensively in the 4th century as being Mount Sinai. I climbed this mountain several years ago with Jim Irwin, the astronaut. We stood on top of the traditional Mount Sinai in the Sinai Peninsula. We looked around. Very disappointing. Beautiful mountains, beautiful scenery, awe-inspiring, but none of the geographical formations fit with what the Bible was telling us.
This wasn't out of Egypt, and St. Catherine's is clearly in the Egyptian peninsula.
It just didn't work. It wasn't on the backside of any desert. It wasn't in the area that the Bible said. We had this stunning realization, as many who have climbed that mountain have said, this just simply is not the place.
The book of Exodus tells the story of how God led Moses and the children of Israel through the desert to a point where they were confronted by the Red Sea.
If you find the correct crossing site, it's easy to find the mountain. And if you find the mountain, it's easy to find the crossing site. It all comes together. It's like a trail of breadcrumbs that leads you to the correct location in an investigation. And the crossing site, a big part of the Exodus story, has just been avoided. People have thought it to be in the Upper Lakes region of the Suez, which is ridiculous. The Bible says that the Egyptians sunk like stones in the mighty sea. We have to have a sea, an ocean, to where they crossed the Red Sea.
People seeing the movie, been blown away by what the Red Sea crossing was. Well, I like a little physical reality and how this could have happened.
As Bob and Larry examine the book of Exodus and take it at face value, another theory begins to emerge.
If you read specifically as to what Flavius Josephus says, he describes this ridge of mountains going along, stopping into the sea, precluding them from going any other place. If you look at satellite imagery, it gives a wide, clear area along the western side of the Sinai Peninsula, almost like a highway to the tip and then turning upward, creating like a cul-de-sac area. They probably went through the Red Sea right at the tip of the Sinai Peninsula in a place called Sharm el-Sheikh. It's remarkable. It's not like a coral reef surrounding the outside of the tip of a peninsula or something that you see in normal coral reef configurations. This goes right through the sea. And it's interesting to note here that God in Scripture says, I will make for you a roadway through the sea.
Actually has a coral barrier that comes out, and Bob and I have pictures of ourselves at high tide, not low tide, with the tide up to about my waist, standing on this barrier, this reef barrier there.
They would have had a pedestal under the surface of the water, a wide ribbon of land that goes under the water, that when the water is parted, they could walk upon, that would allow them an escape route and go through the sea.
The book of Exodus records that Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground.
So we have the precision of Scripture, the historical records, and the physical geography of the area all coming together and creating a picture that this is the most likely site of the crossing point. The Bible says that they crossed through the Red Sea, and it was the mighty waters of the Red Sea. That's simple. We need to look there. The Bible says that Mount Sinai is in Arabia. Galatians 4:25 says, now Hagar stands for Mount Sinai in Arabia. The Bible says it's in the ancient land of Midian, where Moses met God on Mount Sinai. Why aren't we following the clues given us in Scripture? The Bible is like a road map. It's like a compass that you can open up and follow these clues.
For about 600 years at least, we have records of people saying that Mount Sinai should be in Saudi Arabia.
Now, Josephus around 90 AD makes this claim. Well, this designation that Josephus is talking about is not in the Sinai Peninsula, but in Arabia, which would be, according to our calculations, on a mountain called Jabal al-Lawz. The Bible says when God is speaking to Moses, you shall return to Egypt and come back and serve God on this mountain, meaning that he needs to come back to Midian, which is not in Egypt.
Tradition is a powerful thing. And once you start fooling with tradition, even if it's legitimate evidence, it is very, very difficult for people to let go of that.
Without the official invitation from a Saudi citizen, obtaining entry visas proves to be impossible.
Well, it is difficult to get into Saudi Arabia. You just don't go there. We had to manufacture a way to get into the country.
I was warned by Jim Irwin that this would be very dangerous. And he gave me the illustration of when he was going to the moon, they shut the door. He said it was like a dungeon door closing. He said at that moment, there was no turning back. You are going. And the chances of death are there. And I knew that going.
Another friend that I met, a Greek fellow, said, well, I think I know how to get you in, Larry. I have a letter from the king of Saudi Arabia, and we'll take his signature, and we'll put it on his letterhead, which I have, and we'll change the fax machine on my fax to read his fax number, and we'll put the time at the time in Riyadh, and we're going to fax this letter to the embassy here in London. And it basically, the letter's going to say, this is from the king, and I want these guys in a hurry. Get them in. So we faxed it to the Saudi embassy about, I don't know, maybe 8 blocks away. And sure enough, we got in. In a real quick time period. The king carries a lot of weight here. Bob was more than uncomfortable with it. It bothered him a great deal. I think to this day it probably still does. Bob and I come from two different views on this. He has a lot stronger religious beliefs and feelings than I do about things, and I'm kind of like, oh, the doubting Thomas of all this stuff. And to me, it was just a question of how do you get in?
When they closed that door on that Saudi airliner, we were going, and there was no turning back.
Getting into Saudi Arabia is one thing. Finding the mountain is another. Using the letter given to them by Jim Irwin, Tornuk and Williams drive out into the vast Saudi desert, hoping luck will follow.
Well, the desert over there is just a huge expanse and just almost an endless sea of sand and rock. And the heat is so hot that it just sucks the air right out of your lungs. It's frightening to even breathe that 128-degree heat.
The only problem was with David's description was take a right at a big rock and then go 0.6 kilometers, take a left at another big rock. The desert's really easy to get lost in.
With a limited water supply and maps that are now essentially useless, Bob and Larry become hopelessly lost when suddenly a band of Bedouin desert dwellers come to their aid.
Here we're sitting there and we're saying, do you know where Jabal al-Lawz is?
He walked out just to the edge of this hill, so the hill hiding us, and pointed. Jabal al-Lawz, Jabal Musa.
Bob and Larry get their first look at the mysterious peak. Could this be the holy mountain of God spoken of in the Old Testament?
Jabal Musa, which I knew clearly was Arabic for the mountain of Moses. He clearly knew this there as Moses' mountain.
It's such an interesting mountain. When you see Jabal al-Lawz from a distance, you think that my first impression was, there must be a cloud up there. There's a shadow over it. because the corner of the top kind of a triangular part is black.
We know the Bible says that God descended on the mountain in flames of the furnace. So for me, it was kind of a surreal moment.
As they move closer to the mountain, they are confronted with a harsh reality. Warning signs posted in both Arabic and English, and impenetrable high barbed wire fences surrounding the base of the mountain. Aware now of the fact that they could be spotted at any moment, the two move ahead cautiously, looking for any evidence they can find. What they find next will leave them breathless.
I'm looking for markings and paintings and little etchings around the mountain, and I kind of walked upon it.
Come on over here, come on over here. I'm looking for something little like this.
And I looked up and I saw this huge rock monolith.
This is actual video footage of their remarkable find, smuggled out of Saudi Arabia at great risk.
Well, the altar is obviously man-made. It's immense. It would have taken hundreds of men or thousands of men to erect. And so this wasn't a band of nomads that erected this.
And this altar site is out in the middle of a huge, flat, arid field. There's no rocks close to it at all. I mean, it stands all by itself, right, Bob? There's nothing close to it. So the rocks didn't just grow there. They came from some place.
Bob and Larry move in closer to examine mysterious petroglyphs on the side of the altar, instantly recognizing their similarity to the ancient Egyptian deities Apis and Hathor.
I figured that if this was Mount Sinai, this had to be the altar where they made the golden calf. Why would you put a fence around a random rock pile? They wouldn't. They know that this has great importance, and they've erected a fence with barbed wire to keep people away.
Under the constant threat of being spotted by patrolling guards, the two agree they have precious little time to explore further around the base of the mountain.
We were able to notice what I call boundary markers. If you study this closely, you'll see these big piles of rock, maybe 4.5 feet tall, 3.5 feet tall, maybe 6 feet in diameter, and they're clearly around the mountain.
The mountain was considered to be so holy that if the people just touched it, they would die. So Moses was told to put boundary markers around the mountain to keep the people away. And sure enough, around this mountain, about every 400 yards, there are these rock piles. And why would you put these huge rock piles in precise, linear fashion around the mountain?
After a few hours of restless sleep, Bob and Larry decide it is time to climb Jebel al-Az.
And we crested the top of the knoll, and we're welcomed by an incredible sunrise. The sunrise is just awe-inspiring.
But when we get up there, the rocks are clearly black, just like a chalkboard black on the outside, and you break the rocks open and they're not black on the inside. And then as you come down the mountain, there's no more blackened rocks.
Some maps will show that they're vulcanized rock. It came from a volcanic eruption. But when we lifted these rocks up, and Larry and I were smashing them on top of the mountain, and they'd break open, and you'd have this almost pinkish brown granite that would be exposed when you broke the rocks open, we realized then that, of course, they're not volcanic. But what are they? And based on all the other evidence that started to mount, like a police investigator, the degrees of probability increased, and our excitement started to increase also.
What went through my mind was watching the experience Bob was having. He pulled out his Bible and started to write some things in his Bible, and I know Bob went through a lot on top of Jebel al-Az.
We thought that we might be standing on holy ground. I mean, just think about the significance of Sinai. It was a moment for me. The Bible became vibrantly real at that moment. To think that I could be standing where Moses was told to take off his sandals.
And I looked down and I said, there could be something to this story. You know, the blackened rocks up there and all the other things. There might be some of this Exodus stuff here in Saudi Arabia.
Now the thing I'm thinking about is if this is the real Mount Sinai, the world needs to know that this is not myth and legend, not allegory. This is real. And I said to Larry, I said, what are we doing here? And I'll never forget it. Larry looks over and looked me right in the eye and said, Bob, I think we're making history.
With darkness approaching, the two use night vision goggles to find their way. As they descend, they come upon an amazing sight.
The Bible talks about this altar that Moses made at the foot of the mountain and established 12 stone pillars, and they did burnt offerings at this site. And it's at the foot of the mountain.
Angular shape.
Angular shaped. It had 2 channels on it.
It may not be the ultimate answer, but if you got 4 aces, you better bet you're going to win the hand. And I look, we got 4 aces with a king kicking it. This a lot of stuff is going here.
Though excited about their discoveries, Cornuke and Williams know they need to find at least one other distinguishing feature on the mountain, if this is the true Mount Sinai.
Well, Mount Sinai and Horeb are synonymous. They mean the same thing in Scripture. And to be the real Mount Sinai, you need to have a cave on that mountain. The Bible specifically talks about a cave on the mountain that Elijah visited with a cloak over his face, and he looked out at the valley below, the Bible says.
Looking across from their position, they spot what appears to be the opening of a large cave. Though unable to reach it, Cornuke and Williams clearly know its significance.
When you go to St. Catherine's, there's no cave there. He said, where did Elijah go?
He wanted to manufacture and put a cave that fits with what the Bible says. You couldn't put it in a better location.
Now in broad daylight, and with the increasing probability that they will be discovered, the pair decide to make their way down the mountain quickly.
Bob slipped a little bit at one point.
I slipped bad. And there was a deep crevasse that went down 50 feet. And this shale came loose, and I slid, and I just started clawing desperately, trying to grab some brush or something, and it was going off the edge. And Larry swung his hand and grabbed my vest. And we realized we're pushing too hard. We're out of water. We're going to kill ourselves. When you go do an investigation as a police officer, as I've done many investigations, if you're looking at the wrong suspect, nothing's going to fit. It's going to be a frustrating, fruitless investigation. But if you find the right guy, everything starts falling into place.
If I was the district attorney, I'd certainly prosecute this mountain as being Mount Sinai. The jury hasn't come in yet, okay? But I think we'd win the jury.
Arrested by a desert frontier patrol shortly after leaving the mountain, Cornuke and Williams sadly must throw much of their most valuable evidence into the desert as they are led to the authorities and to book. So winning the jury on just their own findings with what little evidence they are able to keep might have proven impossible and caused this adventure to slip into the dust pile of undocumented myth and legend. But amazingly, the findings of another unique pair of explorers provide even more compelling evidence and credibility to the historic discoveries made by Cornuke and Williams 4 years earlier.
At great peril, great risk, they went out to this mountain on several occasions, did extensive research, lived amongst the rocks, took their children with them. This is a phenomenal family that knew the implications of what was at this mountain and took it upon themselves to go and try and find the best evidence.
Working for an American oil company based in Saudi Arabia, the Caldwells are subject to company policy imposed by the Saudi government that all foreigners leave the country for at least 24 days of the year. In the aftermath of the Gulf War, Jim and Penny's travel options are limited, so a trip to the west, toward Egypt, becomes a clear option. St. Catherine's is first on their list of sites to visit.
Yeah, it took everything out of me when we got there to see that it just didn't match the biblical description. I was so disappointed.
All right, family, it's getting late, and I certainly would like for y'all to make sure you go to YouTube and finish watching this. I want you to see the rock that Masha struck, where the water gushed forth, and the evidence that's still there to this day that showed the sediment, water sediment, how it formed. So it's a very interesting documentary. very powerful documentary. And again, we know that the name of the creator is not God or the Lord or anything like that. Those are what where the pagan translators took out the names of the creator and his titles and put those names and titles in honor of Baal and other sun deities. Excuse me. But I'm going to stop it here for now and encourage you to go and to finish watching this documentary. It is intriguing. I watched it several years ago, and I thought that it was in 1983 when they first discovered it, but it was actually in 1978. And imagine, to this very day, the Jews and nobody else will admit to their fraud, to their forgery, you see. But the evidence is there, and these places are being preserved for the true people of the land. And so, to Yahuah be all esteem. I see your flag, Aki, so I'm going to go ahead and release the mic to you, Aki Warrior.
Yes, Aki, just real quick. When our ancestors crossed over into Midian, that if I'm not mistaken, that the people that they call not exactly the Saudis, but it could be some of the Saudis also, but the Bedouins who stay out in that region would be maybe linked to the 12 tribes, because you know how they after the land, when we got over in there, the land would start being that they remained behind and didn't push forward on. If I'm not mistaken. And there was another thing. Oh yeah, and the other thing, I believe that when Yahuah wrote down the Torah and gave to Masha, I believe that was the alphabet that we were given to use, and I would say that would the start of our original alphabet.
Indeed, I would agree. I certainly would agree, Aki. I would agree. It is the foundation of our language and of our truth. The title of our if we would say alphabet, which really the title of our table is Aleph Bayat. And what it means literally means strong house. So what they would call alphabet in English, in Abari, it's the Aleph Bayat. That's the table, of the pictures that make up our language. The Aleph Bayat, it means strong house. And what we know about a house is that a house is a place of security, a place of shelter, a place of provision. Everything that you need is in the house, you see. And so Yahuwah's Torah is the house, you see. So of course Torah would have to embody the language. Everything that we need is in the house. Everything that we need is Torah. Everything that we need to know is there. And so yes, I certainly do agree, Aki, that his instructions encompasses the language, indeed. All right. Before we close, I'm gonna go to Fuse so I can see the screen. Any other comments or questions, family, before we close out on this evening? It is my hope that the information that we've seen. Please go ahead, Aki Rob or Kuchar. Please go ahead, Mashpaka.
Okay, to Aki. I'm gonna be brief. I'm hoping. Aki, Robert wants to know about amusement parks. Are we allowed to go to Disney World and what's the thing?
MGM, Grant. Yep.
Yeah, those things. Are we to partake in those things like that? And I'll release the mic.
Yeah. All right. So, Disney World. Disney World is really steeped in witchcraft and idolatry. It really is, and they pride themselves in that. They pride themselves in witchcraft. They really do. They really do. That's the culture. They really celebrate that stuff when they have sessions of conjuring up the dead. When they prepare for movies, they believe in channeling and all of that. So they're really proud of operating in witchcraft. So Disney World, I don't have any desire to go to Disney World. It brings no excitement to me. I would rather not. Now, an amusement park in general, right? An amusement park in general, and not talking about Disney World, but for example, over the summer, I went to Hershey Park myself and our family and the children. We didn't pay for it; the job paid for it, and I went. And at Hershey Park, there isn't anything there other than if you go to the water park. As a man, you got to keep looking in the sky because the women are running around just about naked in some cases. But I use Hershey Park for example. The only thing that's there is you have rides and just general stuff that you find at amusement parks. Something like that, I don't see an issue with. You see, and nowadays naked people ain't limited to the parks. You walk down the street, they're right there. There's no shame, no kind of shamefacedness. So can't avoid it. So on that level, I don't see an issue with it. Disney World, that's to another level, and they're really into witchcraft at another level. And of course, Universal Studios is owned by Disney World. I really don't know much. I don't know much about any of these places. I've never been there, but I do know what they're into. So Disney World, I would discourage, but an amusement park that doesn't go into all of that, then I don't necessarily see a problem with. Okay, praise Yahuah. Tada. Okay, I see your flag. Akut Sharon, please go ahead, Akut.
Can I be heard?
Yes, you can. Great to hear you.
Oh, I wasn't sure if I had done it right.
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask, is the millennium another level of proving ground? And I release the mic.
Oh, praise Yahuah. Well, yes, I believe so. I believe so, Akut. I believe that in Yahuwah's timing and according to His will, we have been ushered into a time of of awakening and proving, and kind of flipping things on its head. So I believe that it is a special time. It is an appointed time. I believe. All right, you're welcome. You're welcome, Dakut. Okay. Any other comments or questions before we close, family? Once again, let me check YouTube. I'm so sorry, I forgot to check YouTube. Okay, there is a question. I'm sorry, I don't know how long it's been here, and Keith responded, but I don't think he got any response. But there was a question there. Can you marry a woman who has been married but is divorced? And Keith asked a very meaningful question, a very important question. Was she divorced before she turned to follow Yahuwah and his Torah? And that's a very important question because that will determine a whole lot. If not, and as people in Yahuah, when you enter into marriage, it's a serious situation and it should be it should be taken seriously. And that's why Yahuah set certain guidelines for us to follow. And if we follow them, if we follow his guidelines, then we don't have to worry about divorce, because Yahuah doesn't intend for us for divorce to be an option. He gave divorce as an option prior to the change in the contract. He gave divorce as an option, and I believe that he did it in particular to protect his daughters, rather than for some men to feel stuck and then be abusive. Yahuah gave a way out, you see. But after the change in the contract, he gave specific instructions, and we have been empowered to live in a way where divorce should not be an option. So what Aki Keith asked was very important. So I don't see a response from Aki Malak. So maybe he's no longer with us. But if one in serving Yahuah, coming into a marriage in the name of Yahuah, because Christian marriages are really no marriage at all. They're not according to the word of Yahuah, you see. But it's not recognized by Yahuah. But coming into a marriage in Yahuah, it's important and necessary for us to do it according to the instructions of Yahuah, because divorce there is truly not an option. You can separate yourself, you see, under certain circumstances, but if we do it right, then we wouldn't have to worry about those things. When we do it wrong, that's where we have problems, you see. So I believe it's important for us to pay attention to what Yahuah has to say when it comes to marriage. Indeed. Okay. Well, family, I'm going to prepare to close out here on this evening. Praise Father Akut Al Yashaba. Wonderful to see you as always, Akut, and to all of you, family. So I'm going to prepare to close out here on this evening and get ready for work tomorrow. My wife is currently upstairs trying to get the kids together and in order. So I'm going to prepare to close out. Praise Yahuah. Father, we thank and praise you for this time. We praise you for your word, for your truth that you continue to unveil in this very hour. Praise you for the awakening of your people, Yahuah. May you continue to lead us and to guide us according to your word and in your way. Pray that your barakah would be upon us. And even as we go about this week, we pray, Father, that you would watch over us and keep us. Continue to reveal yourself to us, Yahuah, and to awaken your people. Do this, we pray. Empower us to praise you. Empower us to live for you, Yahuah, and to bring esteem to your great name. In Yahusha's name we pray. Aman. Halal Huyah. Praise Yahuah. Family, may Yahuah barak you and keep you. May Yahuah lift up his face upon you and show favor unto you. May Yahuah cause his face to shine upon you and to give you his shalom. May the name of Yahuah be upon you. Halal Hu Yahuah. I'm gonna end with our outro here, and I'm gonna say Leila Tub to you all, and shalom. family. Shalom. Relative.